So, do you have any phobias or, I don't know, fears of things? We're at a spooky time of the year. I don't know. I feel like we can talk about this.
Yes. Yes, I do.
You do have phobias?
Yes.
Can we share any of them?
Sure. I'm going to treat this like a deposition.
Okay.
If you ask me yes or no questions, you're going to get a yes or no answer.
Okay.
Yes, I do. Do I care to share any?
Will you share any with me
Yes.
right now?
Yes.
Okay. Do it.
Okay. Well, geez, nothing like putting me on the spot.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of.
Do you have any phobias that like you got over? If you don't have any right now.
I mean,
I'm still afraid of snakes, but I used to be afraid of spiders too. And then I watched a jumping spider for a summer, and I don't know. I just decided they weren't scary anymore.
you babysat one.
I didn't babysit it. I just saw it on my back porch and was like, hey, I'll check that guy out. I normally don't like spiders. I think the first time I saw him, I like jumped because I was like frightened by him because I was, afraid of spiders. But the more you watch them, I don't know, the more it seems like they're much more afraid of you than vice versa.
Jumping spiders, apparently, some of the best vision in the arachnid world.
Yeah.
They have incredible vision. Jumping spiders and wolf spiders in particular have incredible vision.
Most spiders are blind, I think, because they catch their prey in nets or something.
Yeah,
in webs.
It's they must see. I think most spiders have an array of eyes, 6 eyes, 8 eyes, something like that. But maybe a lot of them are just really using those for sensing movement.
Yeah.
In a large area.
Yeah.
But jumping spiders, really good vision and really smart. I guess they're very smart, very intelligent.
The jumping spider I watched, he caught a pill bug. It caught a pill bug. It could have been a lady spider. And I remember I was going to go and take a picture of it, and it was just holding the pill bug in its arms or whatever. And the pill bug's writhing around on its hands. And I put the camera next to it, and the spider took notice of me, and you could see it deciding if it was going to dismember this pill bug right here or if it was going to run away. And then it ran away, like holding the pill bug up in its arms is like just a pretty comical sight for a spider. And I feel like, I don't know, that moment, I had a good moment with the arachnid world, and I've just not been afraid of spiders ever since then.
You see that spider processing, it's thinking. You go, it anthropomorphizes it a little bit, right? You can sort of put yourself in the place of the spider.
It really does. Yeah. The fact that it had to make that sort of distinction, like, okay, should I run away right now or should I eat this thing? Like, there's some kind of thought process going on in there. I'm still afraid of snakes, though.
I'm afraid of tornadoes.
Tornadoes?
Yeah.
You ever seen one? Has a tornado ever done anything to you?
Not personally.
No.
So I guess it's probably not fair.
Is this just because you hate Jan de Bont films and you really hate Twister?
I do really hate Twister, but I wouldn't say I hate tornadoes. I think tornadoes are pretty cool. But I'm spooked by them. It's pretty scary. There's something about like this force of nature, right? Just unburdened by intellect. That's just pushing through, and it's going to get you. Yeah. You can't reason with it.
Yeah.
And maybe you can't outrun it. I don't know. And they're very imposing looking.
I've never actually seen a tornado, but I do remember I used to be afraid of lightning a lot more. And then I found out that lightning basically just strikes the tallest thing that's under the cloud it's coming from.
I don't know. What about Powder?
I didn't see that.
Powder got struck by lightning and then turned albino.
I didn't see that movie.
Oh.
I used to be afraid of Bigfoot. Are you familiar with Bigfoot? Sasquatch?
Not personally.
No. Yeah, I don't know what it was, but I read a short story or something when I was a kid about Bigfoot, and it just terrified me. And I went camping with my family one time, and my dad went out into the woods to get firewood for just our campfire. And we were staying at a state park. It's not like we're out in rugged terrain. There are other families camping around us. And so we went out into the woods, got some firewood, and I was just over the camping experience for some reason. And I decided I want to sleep in the van. And in the middle of the night, I woke up and was just terrified that my dad had taken Bigfoot's favorite branch and he traced it back to the van where I was sleeping. And I woke my parents up by shining a flashlight at their tent, and my dad came up and got me. And I explained to him I thought Bigfoot was going to get me. And he was like...
And he slapped you silly.
He should have.
Tornadoes are my only one. I'm not afraid of anything else.
Nothing else. No.
Nothing else.
I feel like death by a tornado is not so bad. It's basically you're going to die from being like, pummeled to death by a blunt object.
Oh, yeah, that sounds great.
I don't know. It just feels like it's going to be quick, I would assume. It's not.
Torn limb from limb.
Yeah, I don't know. The guys that died in.
Don't diminish my phobias. I didn't diminish yours of Bigfoot.
I'm sorry.
Though I did say your dad should have slapped you silly.
Yeah.
But that's not an opinion. It's a fact.
It feels like a diminishment.
Well,
I'm still afraid of Bigfoot.
wow. Big day. Welcome back. I'm Joey Z here with Jimmy again for another season. This is season two. Season due.
The second
season. Dose.
Yeah.
Of The Long Road Home Alone. We did it. I can't believe we're back.
I know. Success.
Jimmy, how you doing?
I'm very happy to be here.
I'm happy to be here too. I'm happy to be here back with you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't know what you got till it's gone. Mm-hmm. And then you get it back and so quickly you forget again. Mm-hmm. It's like it always was before.
Yeah.
And that feeling of loss, it's gone, and the appreciation just dissipates immediately. And I'm glad to I'm feeling that already, and it's a nice feeling.
Well, the Polka Festival's over, so I'm on cloud 9, obviously.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it really opens the airwaves. Not to disparage the Polka Festival, because it really was nice, and it wasn't too long. I mean, it only lasted 7 months. It's
absolutely necessary.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really important for the local economy. It's actually, I think I read that it, and we were talking to Bill, and Bill was saying that it makes up, I think, 78% of the
GDP
of the local
the Sheboygan
economy.
GDP. Yeah.
78, 79, somewhere in there.
That's a pretty big deal.
It's a pretty big chunk.
Yeah.
So, we're glad that we were able to contribute to it, have a little piece of that.
Yeah. We also want to thank Bill Sikorsky, who is now the chairman at the Sheboygan Chamber of Commerce.
Hey, Bill, it's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Yeah. Very unfortunate. The former Sheboygan Chamber of Commerce chairman was involved in a kielbasa scandal related to the Polka Festival. Yeah. Apparently, there wasn't much competition in terms of who got the best spots on the kielbasa booths. It was one company specifically, and we don't need to say their name, but suffice it to say they had to step down in shame, and Bill Sikorsky stepped up, and now we are back on the air.
Well, stepped up, stand up. Bill's a stand-up guy. Mm-hmm. I think it's a good turn of the page, as they say, to use a literary term. Books and pages and so forth.
I don't read books. I just watch movies.
Oh, that's I think I knew that about you, and it kind of makes sense. So what are we talking about today, now that we're back?
Yeah, it's Halloween season. Halloween's coming up shortly. I don't know. I feel like it seems strange to talk about Home Alone during the Halloween season. It feels like maybe we should wait until November, but
it doesn't seem strange to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally fine with it. Let's just blend the two together, like Nightmare on
Elm Street,
Nightmare Before Christmas, Nightmare on Elm Street Before Christmas.
Yeah.
So I feel like one of the big themes in Home Alone is Kevin being afraid, Kevin's fears, Kevin overcoming his fears. And I don't know, I feel like we could maybe explore that and see where it takes us.
That's crucial, right? And I appreciate that you bring that up. I think that's a good place to start. Mm-hmm. New season, new me, new you, maybe, and new opportunity to talk about the central tenets of this film that we cherish so much.
Home Alone, directed by Chris Columbus.
Yep. Yeah. Starring John Hurd.
Director of photography, Julio Macat.
Ooh, he's coming in with some new facts.
Editor, Ryan Gosnell.
Ryan Gosling. Editor, Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Do you know he wasn't?
I don't think he was. I think he was doing Young Hercules at the time.
But somebody out there might have to check IMDb just to make sure.
It could be.
So Kevin, fear-based, starting out. This is, we've talked about Kevin's growth in the past, but I think this is a really pertinent point. Kevin is set up in an interesting way because when we first meet him, he's not presented totally like a scared little dweeb. I mean, he's
he's
first,
pretty clever. He's like cracking jokes at his parents. It feels like he can hang out with adults and still,
he's very precocious. He's very, he is operating with sort of a level of sassiness. He sort of seems comfortable in his lot in the family dynamic.
Comfortable playing with glue guns.
Yeah, right. So we get the story right off the bat within the first couple scenes does a great job of setting him up as this character with both sides without seeming clunky. We get that he is enterprising. We get that he's clever. We get that he's precocious, but we also get right off the bat that he is a fearful child in some ways. The first thing we see, he's immediately afraid of the fact that he might have to pack his own suitcase.
Yeah, I like to think of Home Alone as this journey of, well, in terms of fear, I like to think of Home Alone as this journey of Kevin going from pack my suitcase to this is my house, I have to defend it. And that really is like his journey of overcoming fear after fear after fear and then becoming, essentially Rambo when the wet bandits show up.
Yeah.
And that you get that second scene there where he's talking to his siblings and they're all just like, what's the matter with
on him?
Yeah, pack my suitcase. I've never done this in my whole life. And then so he has all 3 or 4 of his siblings just crapping on him for being weak and helpless, and they're all just trying to enjoy the good time, the good holidays with their family, and Kevin just making a big deal about packing his suitcase.
So then as we go on, we see sort of this rapid succession of things that he's afraid of. He then goes in to talk to Buzz, and obviously he's scared of his older brother, Buzz.
Yeah.
Right? He's very intimidated by Buzz, and rightfully so, because Buzz gets in his face. He calls him a flenwad.
I wouldn't let you sleep in this room if you were growing on my ass.
Yeah. So we see that. And then after the meltdown in the kitchen, then we see that he is afraid of sleeping upstairs by himself. It's scary up there. And I think to an extent that's hinting at the fact of this larger theme that's named right in the film, which is Kevin's afraid of being alone. Is fundamentally, centrally, and this is not uncommon for a kid, but it's really hinting at this fact that Kevin fears being by himself. He's timid. He doesn't really think he knows how to operate by himself.
I took that attic scene a little differently. So it's after Kate starts punishing. Well, he's being punished for having misbehaved. They go up to the attic stairs, and she says, "Get upstairs." I am upstairs, dummy. and then she says, she opens the attic door, and he's like, "3rd floor. It's scary up there." I feel like that's him just playing the sympathy card, him trying to appeal to Kate's motherly instincts and trying to be like, no, just I don't need to go up in the attic. But then she says, you don't need to be scared. Fuller's going to come up in a second. And he immediately abandons, well, okay, I don't really care about sleeping up in the attic by myself. I don't want to get peed on.
Yeah.
And I love the way he says it to Fuller, you know about him. He wets the bed. He'll pee all over me. I know it. And just how do you think wetting the bed works? The way I'm envisioning him seeing it is Fuller is just spraying fountains of urine as if it's going to hit ceilings or something.
Well, easy for you to say. Do you want to sleep in a bed with Fuller if he's going to wet the bed?
I wouldn't want to either. I'm just saying Kevin's more afraid of being peed on than he is of going up in the attic because he goes up there immediately after he comes to the conclusion that
I would say that
Fuller.
Kevin being afraid of being peed on is less of a fear of his in particular, and probably more of a broader fear.
Well, and actually, now that you say that, Kate actually acquiesces immediately. I don't want my kid to get peed on.
Yeah,
so
you're in trouble, but that's beyond the pale.
Let's put him somewhere else. Where do you think Fuller ended up at the end of the night? We'll put him somewhere else. Where do you think they put him?
Where did they put the adults? That's what I want to know. Where are Leslie and Frank sleeping? It seems like all of the cousins are piling up in the
living room or kids' rooms. Yeah. I guess I've got to imagine they probably made a makeshift cot above the utility sink and put Fuller on that.
That makes sense.
And then
right.
the urine just drops
down.
right down in. He doesn't need to feel humiliated because he wet a bed,
Yeah. He's used to it, though. He may not feel humiliated.
So Kevin wakes up the next morning coming down from the attic, and he soon realizes that his family is not home. He goes around the entire house trying to find anyone, Mom, Dad, Buzz, Linny, Uncle Frank. Even like he goes into the basement as if the entire family is just down in the basement, like hiding, waiting to pull a prank on him or something like that.
This is another immediate next example of him overcoming yet another fear or acknowledging another fear that we haven't yet seen, which is the basement, and in particular, the furnace.
The furnace is pretty scary. You get that first scene. He goes down to the bottom of the stairs looking for somebody, doesn't see them, and then the furnace turns on. And you can even hear like a voice coming, "Hello, Kevin."
I want to point out, actually, if we can just take a brief aside here. We were talking earlier about our own phobias. And this, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but this in particular really resonates with me. I've heard people say, I don't get the thing with the furnace. Why is the furnace alive? What's going on that took me out of it? Is it evil? There's nothing else supernatural. I've always understood that. It's his imagination, because I had that same experience, a very similar experience as a child in the house I grew up in when I was a young kid.
You were in the basement?
It wasn't the basement, but it was the family room off to the side of the house. It was a ranch house. And this family room had been an addition that I think used to be a garage and had been turned into the family room. And at the end of the family room of the wall, there was a fireplace, and it had two vents on the side on the wall, and it looked like a face to me. And there's a real spooky feeling that I got if I was alone in the family room, especially like if it was daytime, but the lights were off. It was kind of dark in there. I was really spooked by the fireplace, and I didn't like being in there by myself. So I get it. And I think that really, it's very astute of John Hughes to have tapped into this very child specific fear. Well, you get to be 12, 13 years old. You're not afraid of like your imagination probably isn't that wild anymore.
I feel like my entire childhood, I was actually afraid of basements. Basements just really creeped me out. And it's just dark down there. I did have one experience where there was a storm and I was playing Nintendo in the basement and the power went out while I was down there. And I was just terrified. I screamed bloody murder. My parents came down and grabbed me. I'll always remember like how scared I was to just be left in pitch dark in the basement. So I can relate to this fear that Kevin has. And the furnace, it's this mechanical thing that makes a bunch of loud, scary noises in a place that's dark.
And
I can understand why he would turn that into like this sort of monster character. And then he immediately runs up the stairs. Chris Columbus wanted to do a much bigger version of this scene where the
he
furnace
wanted like claymation or something.
The furnace comes to life and chases Kevin up the stairs and out of the house, and they're like
he's got nutcrackers
that are like
things.
walking, like life-size nutcrackers walking down the stairs or something like that. But it was going to cost too much, so he was forced to just do the "Hello, Kevin" furnace thing, which I like it. I feel like the other version of it probably would have just drawn way too much attention to itself. It would have really taken you out of the film.
You know what? And Columbus got his opportunity later in life with Harry Potter movies.
Exactly.
To go over the top with the fantastical elements.
Yeah, and claymation.
Ton of claymation.
Yeah. So Kevin runs up out of the furnace, and that's basically like another instance of him exhibiting his fear. I think the next instance we get is when he watches Angels with Filthy Souls for the first time, and it really does scare him. And I hadn't noticed until I watched it just recently. He's watching Angels with Filthy Souls in the daytime.
Yeah.
And he is terrified by when Snakes gets blown away, like he calls his mom.
Yeah.
I don't know, for some reason I was thinking that was the nighttime and that was like right before the Wet Bandits showed up, but now he's watching rubbish, eating junk.
Well, here's the duality of Kevin, right? Because he is still easily being frightened. He's got this long list. He's got like this domino effect of scary things that happen to him like in the first day. But he's not a basket case. He is simultaneously trying his best to enjoy his newfound freedom. He is also acknowledging, I did wish for this.
Yeah.
I made my family disappear. I finally have this place to myself. I can do what I want. I can eat trash. I can watch the movie that Uncle Frank wouldn't let me watch.
Yeah.
And so we see Kevin right off the bat grappling with these fears, right?
Yeah.
Going,
He's
I want to be something else.
He's experiencing these heights of like total elation at just the freedom to do whatever I want. But then on top of that, I'm by myself, and there are all of these scary things in the world that I now have to face on my own because there's no one there to help me through them.
Yeah.
And then, so moving on to the nighttime, when this is a series of Kevin just being afraid. The wet bandits show up. He wakes up and he sees the wet bandits through the window. And actually, the way that Marv is holding his crowbar, it makes it look like he has a hook for a hand. And so it's like these two guys, and one of them's a monster with a hook for a hand walking past. And then Kevin throws the lights on and then just runs upstairs and hides under the bed in his parents' bedroom.
Right.
And he sits there and he's just panicked as the wet bandits run off because he did scare them off effectively.
Yeah.
And then this is, I think, the first instance where you really see Kevin say, like, I need to be. What does he say?
This is ridiculous. I'm the man of the house. What is it? I can't be
a wimp.
I can't, or something like that.
Yeah, I can't be a wimp. I'm the man of the house. And then he gets up from under the stairs, walks outside, and just starts shouting, I'm not afraid anymore. And even though that results in Old Man Marley walking up and him screaming in Old Man Marley's face, he still took the initiative to try to face his fears. And then it scared him right back home again.
Which is really something else if you consider it. Who does he think the wet bandits are? I mean, he's convinced himself that he needs to be brave. He needs to be the man of the house. Okay, good for you, Kevin.
Yeah.
Who are you telling?
What did you think these guys coming up to your back door and saying, let's go downstairs? We're gonna do like.
Are you somehow now equating this with like your overactive imagination with the furnace? Or you're going, oh, two guys at night who are prowling around, they must just be Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah. Right? Like,
there have been utility guys all around.
That's true. The Ma Bell guys.
Maybe you thought that's what they were. Yeah, he gets scared right back into his house. He goes right back under the bed, too, I think. So he's scared at that point, which works out terribly for what the McAllisters are trying to do from back in Paris, because that's when they had the cop come over to say, hey, your kids are, your parents are in Paris. They didn't abandon you. They didn't disappear. But because Kevin didn't go to the door because he was so terrified, he ends up, thinking for the next few days that he's made his family disappear.
So what do you think then is the turning point for Kevin? Do you think there's one? I mean, we have a big one with Marley, right? Like in the church, that's sort of the last turning point. But at that point, he's already resolved to fight the wet bandits on his own, right? So like the meeting, overcoming Marley thing, becoming friends with him is sort of a cherry on top. There's some point before that Kevin has really turned the page, right? He's gone grocery shopping by himself. It's not even just overcoming fears, but it's this whole like growth in maturity, right? Really owning that man of the house mentality.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's a specific point where that happens?
No, I think it's a process that takes place over the course of the film. The first instance is him going out and saying, I'm not afraid anymore. The next day, and again, this is a kid who was afraid of packing his own suitcase just a couple nights ago. The next day he realizes, I don't have a toothbrush. I need to go and buy one. And I can't imagine Kevin has ever gone to a store by himself before this point. This probably is him going to the pharmacy to buy a toothbrush is probably his first experience buying something on his own.
Yeah.
And I think that's another instance of him and it really isn't just like one moment where he overcomes his fear. It's all of these little instances where he is just forced to overcome fears that maybe he didn't even know he had.
Right.
Let me ask you something. If somebody put a Tommy gun to your head and said, answer this question as quickly as possible, or I'm going to blow your brains out all over this sound booth, what would you say?
What's the question?
Which do you prefer? Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, or Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers? Go. Tommy gun to your head.
And how much time are they giving me?
I don't know.
With the Tommy gun to the head.
I wouldn't push your luck.
Right. I feel like if they have a Tommy gun to my head, they really want to know my real answer, right? They don't want me to just like say something because they have a gun to my head. Like, it's really important.
No, I mean, I think if they put a gun to your head, they want to know like what your gut instinct is.
Oh, you think so?
Which of the two do you want? Yeah. Okay. So let's pretend that Tommy gun's at your head right now. This person's getting real impatient.
Right.
Which of the two movies?
You go, oh, Mr. Gangster. Oh, don't make me choose, right?
Tommy
Dream Warriors, and this, again, Tommy gun to my head. I'm going, Dream Warriors is really good. And I think like the real cherry on top with Dream Warriors is it's got that Dokken song. We're the Dream Warriors.
That is a pretty good song.
Don't want to dream no more.
Yeah.
Which when you think about it, that lyric is interesting. We're the Dream Warriors. Don't want to dream no more. Wow. Okay. Who would have imagined the Dream Warriors don't want to dream no more? If they don't want to dream no more,
they want
who does?
They want to retire from being warriors.
I guess so. Yeah. End up at the VFW.
Yeah.
Playing bingo.
So Tommy gun to your head.
Yeah. Still to my head.
Dokken.
Finger on the trigger. I'm going to go with Curse of Michael Myers.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I would have gone with too. I think Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is a better film. The effects in it are just amazing.
Yeah, they're incredible.
But
I think it's a better made film.
For sure. I don't know. It's also one of the best in the Nightmare on Elm Street series. And then you've got Lawrence Fishburne in it, a young Lawrence Fishburne. I think he was going by Larry Fishburne at the time.
He's in Death Wish 2 as well as Larry Fishburne.
Is he?
Yeah.
I saw an episode of MASH that he was in where he was as Larry Fishburne. Oh yeah, and he's also in Apocalypse Now. He lied about his age to get onto Apocalypse Now. I think he said he was 17 and he was actually like 14 or something like
Seriously?
that. Yeah, so he just went away to the Philippines for a year and a half to film Apocalypse Now as a 14-year-old kid.
And his parents are like, Larry, be careful.
Yes.
Be safe, bud. When did he start going by Lawrence? Was it like Matrix?
Yeah, it had to be like mid-90s. He was in a few films. I don't know. He's in Boys in the Hood. I can't remember if he was going by Lawrence by that point.
He's Lawrence by then.
He is. Okay.
He's Lawrence by then.
That's early 90s. So that's 93. Yeah, 92 or 93 or something.
Yeah. 90s. He must have switched over to Lawrence in the 90s.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Probably sounds more classy, I guess. Lawrence
Elder statesman
than Larry. Yeah.
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 Yeah, going for new roles. He's like now, he's a bit of an older adult. He's more of a father figure.
I've done my Vietnam movies. Now it's time to move on to.
Yeah, I've done my schlock. I've done my canon.
Yeah,
revenge pictures.
Oh, and he was also in a Korean show, a Korean war show. Man, he's really got a thing for war films.
Well, get it where you can.
Curse of Michael Myers is one of my favorite Halloween films. The holiday, not the series.
I see.
Yeah, I have a lot
of spooky films.
I have a lot of fun with that one. And you've also got a young Paul Rudd who looks exactly like an old Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
Does.
Yeah, you sure do. And that's not to disparage a young Paul Rudd.
No, right? No, he's still classy.
Paul Rudd looks like a young Paul Rudd.
Mm-hmm.
Here's that big wedge, though, right? You're not about producer's cut.
No.
And I'm going to go right on ahead and prefer the producer's cut.
Have you even seen the producer's cut of Curse of Michael Myers?
Yeah, dude.
I do not prefer it.
What do you mean? I just said I prefer it. And then you say, have I even seen it?
I thought you were just trying to be inflammatory.
Oh, well, that's fair. Yeah. No. I had a copy of that on a bootleg VHS that had it was like a work print that had time code on it and stuff. I mean, it was hardly watchable.
Who's the producer of that? Mustafa Akkad?
It was Mustafa Akkad.
I don't understand that.
Who was killed in a suicide bombing in Jordan.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah. At a hotel. He and his daughter, I think. You
don't often see producers' cuts of films. I wonder why it was that he wanted his own specific cut of that.
He really had some ownership over that over that franchise for
Okay.
like 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, I know they tried
It
to-
was very important to him.
It sort of feels like in the later films, they try to make it seem like Michael Myers is sort of like, I don't know, a servant of Satan or something. And they start introducing this character that maybe is the devil, but you don't ever really get to see him. And I think they started that plot in the film just before. And I don't know if it was the director or the production whatever. Like, it's a producer's cut. So, like, wouldn't he have had the say? Like, that's what I don't understand. Why is it a producer's cut?
Mustafa Akkad probably had final cut on the film.
I see.
So that was probably his preferred cut of the film.
Okay.
But maybe it didn't test as well with audiences. I don't actually know how
That
the
could have been
producer's cut got scuttled.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just postulating. That's my guess.
I do prefer the director's cut. I've seen the producer's cut. And
you don't know that's the director's cut. That might just be like the studio cut.
It could be the studio cut
or whatever, alternate cut.
Yeah,
the theatrical cut, we'll call it.
I really love the theatrical cut. I prefer it. It's also what Donald Pleasance's last role as an actor altogether. Maybe just as
was it his very
Dr.
last
Loomis.
film?
Yeah, I think they weren't able to shoot some of the stuff. That may have been why there was a different cut of it, because he died, I think, maybe before the film was finished. But yeah, I really love Curse of Michael Myers. It's a lot of fun. I wrote a screenplay one time.
Oh God, let's not go down this road.
No, you're gonna love it. It was a 3-film crossover. Okay, Candyman, Pet Sematary, and My Girl.
Shut up.
So a zombified Macaulay Culkin from My Girl comes back to battle Candyman, and they use the Pet Sematary to make it happen. It could be like an entire cinematic universe, and then we pull in the good son as well, and we can get like a zombified version of the evil version of Macaulay Culkin.
Right, like a legion of zombified Macaulay Culkins. Yeah,
like
you're right. I like it.
Well, Pet Sematary had like a good kid come back and then see his parents. I love the idea of this woman who's let her son plunge to his death. He comes back as a zombified form because of Pet Sematary, and then he teams up with Candyman.
He teams up with
Candyman, and then you've got Macaulay Culkin from My Girl, who was killed by bees, remember?
I got it.
Candyman and Macaulay Culkin.
Right. That's not over my head.
Like Freddy versus Jason.
Okay. All right. I'll allow it.
Okay.
You ever seen The Blob? Chuck Russell's The Blob?
I haven't. Is that the one from 80s?
Yeah.
I've heard it's good.
I don't know. It really stands up with like the other body horror movies of the time. I mean, like
The Fly,
The Thing. I feel like it's right there in that zone. I'm a huge fan of Chuck Russell, and I feel like he doesn't quite get the shine that he deserves. But I'd go out on a limb. I'd go so far as to say I would call Chuck Russell the Billy Wilder of the 80s and the 90s, in the sense that he made such a broad variety of great films. With over the course of 5-6 years, he made The Blob, and then he made The Mask with Jim Carrey, and then he made Eraser with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I like Eraser.
All great standalone movies, and all so very different from each other.
Eraser.
Hats off to Chuck Russell if he's listening.
Oh yeah. Hey, Chuck Russell.
Yeah, come on
the show, and we'll talk to you about The Blob and Eraser.
We sure will. Oh, we'll talk.
Is it The Eraser or Eraser? Eraser. That was, I feel like that was one of the first rated R films that like I saw on a regular basis.
Yeah. I think the first PG-13 film I ever saw in the theater was Last Action Hero. So the first PG-13 was a Schwarzenegger, which is hard to do.
Yeah.
He's not in a lot of PG-13 movies. He was in some PG movies.
Yeah.
And a lot of R movies.
Yeah.
But Last Action Hero is right in that sweet spot.
Where does Junior fit? Is that PG-13?
Oh,
that's like Danny. How many movies did he do with Danny DeVito?
Well, he did Twins
and Junior.
I don't think he did another one.
Nothing.
He's not in Get Shorty, is he?
I don't think he is. I didn't really care for that one.
I'm certain he's not.
Yeah. I like Twins, though. Twins is fun.
You like Twin Peaks?
I've seen it, yeah.
One, two, 10. Keep the change, you filthy animal.
So a lot of what we do here is fun and games, but I think based on the topic of today, I did want to share, I had spoken to...
Fun and games?
Well, we sometimes play games.
Oh, okay.
And we sometimes have fun, I dare say.
I'm serious here most of the time.
Anyway, I talked to our staff therapist a little bit about this and talking a little bit about, Kevin overcoming his fears, but also we don't see this, but I think in the long arc of Kevin McAllister's story, there's probably potential for some trauma to have been inflicted here. He's resilient. He comes out on top, but a lot of things happen to him. So when I was talking to our staff therapist, she asked that we just put a little disclaimer, something along the lines of, while Home Alone is a beloved comedy, it is important to consider the potential long-term trauma that Kevin might experience from his ordeal. Being left home alone at such a young age, coupled with the intense experience of defending his home from two dangerous criminals, could leave lasting psychological scars. So I think that's true. And some things that she had mentioned that she often sees in patients who went through something very similar to what Kevin went through might be anxiety throughout life, difficulty trusting others. Nightmares and flashbacks are a real common thing that can happen.
Fear of abandonment.
Fear of abandonment, big time. And along with that, you could have some difficulty forming close relationships with people. He might experience some avoidance behaviors, some things that manifest as phobias later in life. And finally, not to understate the possibility of guilt and self-blame. He's at I made my family disappear. He made his family disappear, and I think with the right amount of therapy, you could work through that and understand that, no, you didn't. This isn't your fault. You didn't make that happen, which is why seeking professional help is so important. Okay. Therapy, counseling, it could provide Kevin with those tools that he needs to process his trauma and, just develop healthy coping mechanisms. So you got to wonder, is the McAllister clan the type of family who's going to recognize that and make sure that Kevin gets the mental help that he needs?
Okay, I'm just going to come right out of the gate and say I disagree with all of that. I don't feel like Home Alone is a film about Kevin McAllister being left alone and then traumatized for the rest of his life. I feel like Home Alone is a story about a kid who is afraid of the world and is forced to exist on his own for a few days. And as a result, he grows and he learns to rely on himself a little more. And he realizes, I don't need to be afraid of these things. They actually aren't nearly as hard as I thought they could be. I do think it's probably, it's really scary, having to fend off robbers. I can't imagine he'd probably have some bad dreams about that. But I don't feel like that's the overall message of the film. Kevin's family.
You did sort of undermine what you said about completely disagreeing with everything there, because you did kind of acknowledge you might have some bad dreams. So that's fair. All right. It sounds like there maybe is a little bit of common ground.
I was trying to be more antagonistic, but I guess I am, being a lot more accommodating than I gave myself credit for.
Yeah. Look at you. I mean, you have grown too, I think.
I do. Okay. So I do think, like, if Old Man Marley had showed up 60 seconds later and Kevin's
lost a finger.
Yeah. And Kevin's dismembered fingers are dangling from Joe Pesci's feral lips. Yeah. Yeah. Like that would cause some trauma. I could understand this movie being a film.
Literal physical trauma.
Physical and mental.
You end up in the trauma unit. I mean, that's what we call trauma.
Yeah.
Right.
You're picturing like Kevin's parents getting home and having imagined the worst things, and somebody broke into their house and bit their child's fingers. Yeah.
Wasn't even probably on Kate's bingo card of worst possible fears.
You never imagined and really something so bad as this.
Larry Hankin in Family Crisis Intervention didn't even predict that.
No.
Has the child's fingers been bitten off by a home invader? No.
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 And because
he's just home alone. Well, are you so sure?
Well, and then Old Man Marley shows up, and so that doesn't need to become a thing that gets put in his normal list of terrible things that could have happened to the person who's calling them about those terrible things.
So you think that he came close? He came close to the edge of trauma, but ultimately, probably just bounced right back.
Yeah,
you think he's like a resilient little bugger?
One split second. Yeah, no, when he
so you think that Kevin as an adult is going to be entirely well adjusted?
I mean, I can't say that. Who's to say what's going to happen to him a week from now after having been left
something traumatic this time, perhaps?
Maybe somebody will actually bite off his fingers next week.
You never know. Yeah.
Or he'll get beat up for wearing a big bird shirt.
A big bird shirt.
Yeah.
Or, you can get hit by a bus. You just never know.
And is getting hit by a bus traumatic? I mean, you're probably not aware of it.
But you could die.
Yeah. Yeah. Physically, it's traumatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I would say that really flies in the face of becoming a well-adjusted adult.
It could.
If you get hit by a bus and die.
Anyway, the wet bandits are taken care of. He beat 2 grown adult men at their own game. I don't know. I think Kevin's walking away from this experience thinking, yeah, I can handle the world. I'm not traumatized by it. I feel like he was this kid at the beginning of the movie who is just terrified by everything, just paralyzed by indecision or inability or, just not understanding.
You know what's funny is he really is seeking Buzz's approval. That big brother, he really wants that approval. You know, he looks up to him when the whole clan gets back. Buzz shakes his hand, slaps him the high five, says he's pretty cool for not burning the place down. And Kevin just beams at that.
Oh, yeah.
And so he's overcome all of these great hardships, these high stakes situations, and then when Buzz discovers that his room is in shambles, Kevin is right back to that scared little kid that he was in the beginning. He's still afraid of Buzz.
Yeah.
He hasn't overcome that.
Do you think at the end of the film, Buzz would have let Kevin sleep in his room if he was growing on his ass?
I think, to tell you the truth, he always would have let Kevin sleep in his room if he was growing on his ass. But he's not about to admit that to Kevin.
I don't know why a 15-year-old would come up with such an expression. I feel it's so crude. It's such a terrible thing.
Right. No 15-year-old knows a thing about being crude.
It's such a terrible thing to say to somebody.
So I think we have talked around this topic before, but it's nice to really dig in and think about fundamentally what this story is about. I think because ultimately what we're talking about here is themes. And that is something that this film does really well.
Yeah.
If the themes don't hit you head on, it doesn't smack you in the face with them. It's not preachy, right? It has no place for that. And if you walk away going, oh, that was funny, there were a lot of pratfalls, it was, a lot of laugh lines, very amusing. And, a lot of viewers may just simply have that takeaway, right? But I think it's just a mark of good storytelling, how appropriately thematic this film is, and the character growth that we see. It's just good plot structure.
Fear and family. That's what Home Alone's about. Overcoming fears, overcoming family.
Big time.
Yeah.
And if you can do both of those in this life, you're on cloud 9.
And, regardless of where Kevin's left at the end of the film regarding his relationship with Buzz, I feel the fact that he's overcome so many fears in this film, he can take Buzz now. Buzz is no longer going to be a scary force in Kevin's life. He's beaten the wet bandits. He's befriended a shovel slayer. Kevin can handle this world on his own. And, I think he's maybe going to step up to Buzz from now on and maybe earn a little more respect. Maybe get that cheese pizza a little more often than he did before.
And you know who really gets left in the lurch in all this?
The wet bandits.
Jeff.
Oh, yeah, Jeff, too.
Classic middle brother syndrome.
Yeah.
Probably already suffering from it. And now he's still got the older bully brother and the younger brother superstar.
Yep. And
man of the house.
2 older sisters teaming up against him, naming the dog whatever they want. What does Jeff get? Nothing.
A big load of nothing.
Yeah.
And this story, I think, is really about Jeff. And I think it was a miss that we didn't talk about it. And I feel that we failed.
I'd really like to take some time to talk about Jeff. If I don't know, if we have a few more minutes, we could really pack this in.
I think we may have run out the clock on that. I don't want to test Bill's goodwill here, but I do want to take the moment just to say once more, it really, truly is great to be back.
Yeah.
Thank you to everyone for the letter writing campaign, for the phone calls,
the voting, the elections.
Every little piece of this helps.
International campaigns.
And we feel it. We feel the love. We feel the support.
Tommy gun to my head. I can't thank Bill Sikorsky enough.
Tommy gun away from my head. And I'm still singing the same tune.
There we are. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Let it be a spooky one. Thanks, Jimmy. I'll see you next week.
All right. Trick or treat.
Broadcast live from our studio in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, The Long Road Home Alone is hosted by Jimmy Dantes and Joey Z and produced by Pat Muldoon. Be sure to tune in next time. Don't forget your reading glasses and keep the change, you filthy animals.